Chosen one. There is something about your presence that many people struggle to explain, yet they feel it immediately when they are near you. It is not something loud or forceful, nor is it something you intentionally display. Rather, it is a quiet authenticity that flows naturally from the way you live and the way you refuse to compromise your inner truth. While others carefully manage the image they present to the world, you have gradually learned to live with a level of honesty that cannot easily be disguised. This authenticity acts like a mirror in the environments you enter, reflecting things that people have often worked hard to hide from themselves. Many individuals build their lives around performance. They learn how to present certain emotions publicly while burying others beneath layers of habit and expectation. In social environments, people often construct identities that allow them to fit comfortably into groups or maintain the approval of those around them. Over time, this performance becomes so familiar that they forget it is even happening. They begin to believe their own rehearsed version of life, convincing themselves that their compromises, unhealed wounds, or hidden motivations are invisible. Yet when someone enters the room who is not participating in that performance, the illusion becomes harder to maintain. Your presence, chosen one, often carries that effect. The authenticity you embody does not accuse people directly, but it exposes contrasts that are difficult to ignore. When someone who is pretending to be content encounters someone who has genuinely found peace, the difference becomes noticeable. When someone who carefully manipulates appearances stands beside someone who lives with quiet integrity, the contrast becomes uncomfortable. Your calm honesty creates an environment where hidden tensions rise closer to the surface. This is not because you are confronting people verbally, but because your presence reveals an alternative way of living that challenges the compromises they have accepted. Chosen one. This dynamic often causes people to feel seen in ways they never expected. They may sense that you notice things they prefer to keep concealed. Even if you never speak about what you observe, they feel the possibility that their carefully constructed image might not be as convincing as they hoped. Instead of examining that discomfort internally, many react outwardly against the person who awakened it. This reaction is not truly about you. It is about the conflict between the life they present publicly and the truth they quietly recognize within themselves. Because facing that conflict requires humility and courage, some people choose a different response. Rather than acknowledging the inner tension your presence reveals, they begin to push against you indirectly. Their reactions may appear subtle at first. A passive-aggressive remark appears in conversation. A dismissive comment is delivered with a smile. They may question your intentions, exaggerate minor details, or suggest that you take yourself too seriously. These responses can feel confusing if you try to interpret them logically, because you may not have done anything openly confrontational. Yet the tension behind them often originates from something deeper, the discomfort of being near someone who reflects truths they are not ready to face. Chosen one. Passive-aggressive behavior often arises when people feel challenged, but cannot openly admit why. Instead of expressing their discomfort honestly, they communicate through sarcasm, indirect criticism, or subtle exclusion. These actions allow them to protect their image while still pushing against the person who triggered their unease. The irony is that such reactions often reveal more about their internal struggle than about anything you have done. What appears to be random hostility frequently begins the moment someone realizes that your presence highlights inconsistencies they hoped would remain unnoticed. Another common response is defensiveness. When people feel their identity is threatened, even indirectly, they instinctively protect the version of themselves they have created. This protection can appear in arguments that seem unnecessary or exaggerated. They may interpret neutral statements as criticism or assume judgment where none was intended. Their responses grow sharper because they are not responding to your words alone. They are responding to the inner pressure created by your authenticity. In many cases, they are defending not against something you said, but against the possibility that the life they constructed might not be as solid as they believed. Chosen one. These reactions can sometimes feel unfair because they appear without clear cause. You may find yourself wondering why certain individuals treat you with unusual resistance, despite having minimal interaction with them. Yet when you step back and observe carefully, a pattern often becomes visible. The tension usually appears in environments where performance is valued more than honesty, or where compromise has quietly replaced integrity. In such spaces, authenticity disrupts the unspoken agreement to ignore uncomfortable truths. Your presence becomes a reminder that another path exists, and that reminder alone can unsettle those who prefer not to question the system they rely on. Because of this dynamic, people sometimes describe you as intense. They may say you carry a strong energy, or that conversations feel different when you are present. Yet what they are truly describing is not intensity, but clarity. Living honestly creates an atmosphere where pretense struggles to survive comfortably. Those who are accustomed to hiding behind social masks interpret that clarity as pressure, because it invites them to examine themselves more deeply than they usually do. What they label as intensity is often the simple experience of standing near someone who refuses to live a lie. Chosen one. Scripture reflects this phenomenon when it speaks about light revealing what darkness prefers to conceal. In John 3:20-21, it explains that people sometimes avoid the light because their deeds might be exposed, while those who live truthfully come into the light willingly. Your authenticity functions much like that light. It does not attack others directly, but it creates an environment where truth becomes more visible. Those who are comfortable with honesty appreciate that presence, while those who are invested in illusion may react with resistance. Over time, you may notice that individuals who embrace growth and sincerity tend to feel comfortable around you. They appreciate the steadiness you bring because it encourages them to live with the same honesty. On the other hand, those who depend on deception or denial often become restless in your presence. Their discomfort may lead them to distance themselves or to challenge you in subtle ways. Recognizing this pattern can help you understand that the tension you encounter is rarely personal. It reflects the difference between authenticity and performance. Chosen one. Your role in these situations is not to force anyone into self-examination. Each person must decide for themselves whether they are ready to face the truths reflected back to them. Your responsibility is simply to remain aligned with the honesty God has cultivated within you. By doing so, you create an environment where truth has the opportunity to appear, even if some people choose not to acknowledge it. Over time, that authenticity becomes its own quiet testimony. What others sometimes interpret as intensity is therefore not a flaw in your character, but evidence of the clarity you carry. Your presence exposes what others pretend not to see, not because you seek to challenge them, but because you refuse to participate in the same illusions. In a world where many people hide behind carefully constructed identities, authenticity can feel confronting. Yet it is also the quality that ultimately leads others toward genuine freedom when they are ready to embrace it. Chosen one. Another reason your presence often unsettles certain people is the depth with which you approach life and relationships. Many individuals are comfortable interacting only at the surface level. Their conversations revolve around safe topics, predictable opinions, and the familiar rhythm of polite exchanges that never require vulnerability or reflection. These interactions allow people to coexist without examining their beliefs, fears, or motivations too closely. Yet you were not built to remain in that shallow water. From early in your journey, you carried a natural inclination toward sincerity, asking questions that invite honesty and speaking in ways that reveal the deeper layers of experience beneath ordinary appearances. Because of this inclination, surface-level conversations rarely satisfy you for long. You may participate politely when necessary, but your spirit recognizes when an interaction remains trapped in performance rather than authenticity. While others feel comfortable discussing trends, gossip, or routine observations indefinitely, your attention naturally drifts toward meaning. You find yourself wondering about the motivations behind decisions, the lessons hidden inside difficult experiences, or the values that shape the choices people make. This orientation toward depth is not an attempt to challenge or expose others. It simply reflects the way your mind and heart have learned to engage with the world. Chosen one. This difference often creates subtle tension in relationships that depend on convenience rather than truth. Many people approach social connection as a source of comfort. They want conversations that reinforce their existing views and interactions that do not require emotional risk. When someone enters the conversation with genuine curiosity or a willingness to explore deeper questions, the atmosphere changes. Suddenly, the interaction requires more honesty than some individuals are prepared to offer. They may smile politely, change the subject, or respond with humor that redirects attention away from the deeper topic. In these moments, it becomes clear that they were seeking familiarity rather than understanding. When you speak from a place of honesty, your words sometimes reach areas of reflection that others prefer to avoid. Asking a sincere question about someone's purpose, beliefs, or personal growth can gently challenge the routines they have built around avoiding those thoughts. Instead of embracing the opportunity for deeper dialogue, they may interpret the conversation as uncomfortable or unnecessary. Deflection becomes a common response. They might minimize the subject by calling it too serious, suggesting that life should remain light and uncomplicated. At other times, they withdraw from the conversation entirely, choosing distance rather than engaging with the vulnerability that deeper connection requires. Chosen one. These reactions can create a quiet loneliness that is difficult to explain. You may find yourself surrounded by people who appear friendly and familiar, yet the interactions never reach the level where your true thoughts and experiences are understood. Others may feel they know you because they have shared laughter or casual conversations with you. Yet beneath those exchanges lies the recognition that they are interacting with only a portion of who you are. The deeper reflections, the questions that shape your perspective, and the experiences that refined your faith often remain unspoken because the environment does not invite them. This form of loneliness is unique because it occurs even when you are not physically alone. You may sit in a room filled with conversation and still sense that the most meaningful parts of yourself remain unseen. It is not that people intentionally reject you. Rather, they interact with the version of you that fits comfortably within their expectations. That version may appear friendly and approachable, yet it does not fully represent the depth of your spirit. Over time, this experience can create the impression that you must either simplify yourself or remain partially hidden in order to maintain certain relationships. Chosen one. The pain of this misunderstanding can feel heavy at times. You may wonder whether your desire for sincerity and depth makes connection unnecessarily complicated. You might even question whether you expect too much from ordinary interactions. Yet the truth revealed through your journey is far different. The tension you experience does not come from asking too much of others. It comes from encountering environments where authenticity has not yet become a shared value. Many people have never practiced the vulnerability required to sustain deeper relationships, so they instinctively retreat when conversations move beyond familiar territory. Scripture reflects this dynamic in Proverbs 25, which describes the purposes of a person's heart as deep waters that only someone with understanding can draw out. Not everyone possesses the patience or courage to explore those deeper waters. Some remain comfortable at the surface because it feels predictable and safe. When they encounter someone who naturally seeks depth, they may interpret that desire as intensity or complexity, rather than recognizing it as sincerity. Yet the capacity to engage at that level is often the foundation of meaningful connection. Chosen one. This does not mean you are destined to remain misunderstood forever. Rather, it means your path will naturally guide you toward people who share the same desire for authenticity. Just as your presence challenges those who prefer superficial interactions, it also attracts those who are searching for honest dialogue and genuine understanding. These individuals may be fewer in number, but the relationships formed with them carry a different quality. Conversations flow more freely because both people are willing to explore ideas and emotions without hiding behind performance. Until those connections appear, the loneliness you sometimes feel serves as a reminder that depth requires patience. Your willingness to live honestly may separate you temporarily from environments where authenticity is rare. Yet that separation is not evidence that you are too much for the world. Instead, It reveals the difference between those who are ready for truth and those who remain comfortable with illusion. When people cannot meet you in honesty, it reflects their current capacity rather than a flaw in your character. Chosen one, the story unfolding in your life demonstrates that being misunderstood is not the same as being wrong. Many individuals measure compatibility by how easily someone blends into the existing atmosphere around them. Yet transformation rarely occurs where everyone agrees to remain shallow. The discomfort your depth sometimes creates is the natural result of encountering environments that have not yet learned to value authenticity. Over time, you will recognize that this tension protects you from relationships that depend on pretense rather than truth. The loneliness of being partially known may persist for a season, but it also prepares you to recognize genuine connection when it finally appears. When you meet people who are unafraid of depth, the difference will feel unmistakable. Conversations will move naturally beyond polite exchanges, and honesty will replace performance as the foundation of trust. In those moments, you will realize that the capacity for authentic relationship has always existed. It simply required encountering hearts prepared to meet you at the same level of truth. Chosen one, your depth is not an excess that must be reduced. It is a strength that invites others toward sincerity when they are ready. The discomfort it creates in shallow environments is not a sign that you are too intense or complicated. It is evidence that authenticity carries a different gravity than performance. Those who are willing to enter that deeper space will recognize its value, while those who prefer convenience will quietly step away. Either outcome simply reveals where true connection can grow. Chosen one. Another shift that has created tension in your relationships is the quiet emergence of boundaries in your life. You started recognizing that constant availability was not the same as genuine love, and endless explanation did not necessarily create mutual understanding. Certain interactions left you drained rather than strengthened. Conversations circled endlessly without resolution. Some individuals relied on you as a place to unload their frustrations, while rarely offering the same support in return. Through reflection and prayer, you slowly realized that compassion does not require sacrificing your peace. Protecting your well-being is not selfishness. It is stewardship of the life God entrusted to you. Chosen one, as you began setting limits, the dynamics around you shifted in ways that revealed more than words ever could. You stopped over-explaining decisions that had already been made with clarity. You reduced your participation in conversations that revolved around conflict rather than growth. You allowed silence to replace arguments that once demanded long, emotional debates. These changes did not appear dramatic from the outside, yet they carried profound consequences. The moment you stopped carrying the emotional weight of every relationship, the people who had quietly depended on that weight began to feel the difference. Some individuals had grown accustomed to the version of you that always answered immediately, always explained patiently, and always absorbed the emotional turbulence around them. Your openness created a sense of comfort for them because it allowed their behavior to remain unchanged. When boundaries appeared, that comfort disappeared. Instead of recognizing the shift as healthy growth, they interpreted it as rejection. The same person who once appreciated your patience now accused you of distance. The same individuals who relied on your emotional labor began questioning why you were no longer available in the same way. Chosen one, these accusations often come wrapped in familiar language. People say you have changed, as though change itself were a flaw. They describe your new clarity as coldness, suggesting that kindness must always remain unlimited to remain genuine. Others may call your boundaries selfish, implying that your responsibility is to continue accommodating their expectations, regardless of the cost to your own peace. At first, these responses may feel confusing, especially if your intentions remain rooted in sincerity. Yet when you look closely, a deeper pattern becomes visible. Those who protest your boundaries most strongly are often the ones who benefited most from your lack of them. When your life revolved around explaining, accommodating, and absorbing emotional pressure, they could continue their patterns without interruption. Your patience allowed them to avoid examining their own behavior. Your availability meant they rarely had to develop independence or responsibility. The moment you stepped back from those roles, the system that once supported them quietly collapsed. Their frustration is therefore less about your change and more about the loss of a dynamic that once served their convenience. Chosen one. Understanding this truth reveals an important distinction. You are not becoming harder, you are becoming clearer. Hardness closes the heart and replaces compassion with bitterness. Clarity, however, simply recognizes where responsibility begins and where it ends. It allows you to care for others without surrendering the peace God has cultivated within you. That clarity often unsettles people who were comfortable living inside confusion. When expectations were never defined, they could quietly shift responsibility toward you whenever they needed support or validation. Boundaries remove that ambiguity. Scripture reflects this wisdom in Proverbs 4:23, which encourages believers to guard their hearts because everything in life flows from them. Guarding the heart does not mean isolating yourself from relationships. It means recognizing that your emotional and spiritual health must remain protected if your life is to remain aligned with God's direction. When you began practicing this protection, the atmosphere around you changed. Some relationships grew stronger because they respected the new clarity. Others struggled because they were built on patterns that could not survive honesty. Chosen one, the discomfort surrounding you often increases precisely when you stop carrying guilt for choosing peace. Earlier in your life, you may have felt responsible for maintaining harmony at any cost. If someone reacted negatively to a boundary, you might have immediately questioned whether you had done something wrong. That instinct slowly taught you to compromise your needs in order to prevent conflict. Yet healing introduced a new understanding. Peace does not come from avoiding every disagreement. Sometimes peace grows only after truth replaces silent accommodation. When you release the guilt that once accompanied your boundaries, something powerful happens. You no longer feel compelled to defend every decision or justify every limit you establish. Your calm confidence communicates that your choices come from reflection rather than impulsiveness. This steadiness often unsettles those who relied on your previous uncertainty. Without the leverage of guilt, their usual methods of persuasion lose effectiveness. They may try stronger criticism or emotional pressure, hoping to restore the dynamic they once controlled. Yet the more firmly you stand in clarity, the more obvious the imbalance becomes. Chosen one, this stage of your journey reveals an important truth about relationships. Genuine connection does not depend on constant sacrifice from one side. Healthy relationships adapt when growth occurs because both people value mutual respect. When someone reacts with hostility to boundaries, it often exposes that the connection relied heavily on imbalance. Your willingness to step back from that imbalance does not destroy the relationship. It reveals the structure that was already fragile. As you continue walking in this clarity, the environment around you will gradually reorganize itself. People who respect your peace will remain and adjust naturally to the new dynamic. They will recognize that your boundaries create a healthier foundation for interaction. Others may drift away because the roles they once occupied no longer exist. This separation may feel painful at times, yet it also creates space for relationships built on mutual honesty rather than quiet obligation. Chosen one, the discomfort surrounding your growth is not evidence that you have become distant or unkind. It is evidence that confusion no longer defines the way you relate to the world. You are learning that peace does not require constant self-sacrifice, and compassion does not require endless explanation. The clarity emerging in your life reveals who valued you for your presence, and who valued the access they once had to your energy. In the end, the boundaries you set do more than protect your peace. They illuminate the truth of every relationship around you. Those who once relied on your openness without respecting your limits must now confront a different reality. And in that reality, chosen one, your calm refusal to carry unnecessary guilt becomes the quiet declaration that your life is no longer governed by dysfunction, but by the peace God placed within you. Chosen one, Another pattern you may have noticed throughout your life is the way certain environments react when honesty enters spaces that were carefully maintained through silence. In families, workplaces, and communities where harmony depends on ignoring uncomfortable truths, the person who refuses to participate in the illusion often becomes the easiest target for blame. It is not because that person created the tension. It is because their presence makes the tension visible. Your honesty has repeatedly placed you in that position. In many systems, stability is preserved through unspoken agreements. People learn which subjects must remain unaddressed, which behaviors must be tolerated, and which narratives must remain unquestioned in order to keep the structure intact. These agreements are rarely written or openly discussed. Instead, they develop quietly over time as individuals adapt to the expectations of the environment around them. When everyone follows the script, the system appears peaceful on the surface, even if deeper problems continue to exist underneath. Chosen one, your nature has always made it difficult to follow that script indefinitely. When something feels dishonest, manipulative, or harmful, you naturally begin asking questions or naming what others prefer to ignore. You may do this calmly, even gently, yet the effect can still be disruptive to a system that depends on silence. The moment truth enters the conversation, the illusion holding everything together begins to weaken. People who have invested years protecting that illusion suddenly face a choice: confront the reality being revealed, or defend the structure that has kept them comfortable. Often, the second option feels easier. Confronting reality requires accountability, humility, and the willingness to admit that certain patterns must change. Defending the system, however, requires only a shift of focus. Instead of addressing the underlying problem, attention is redirected toward the person who exposed it. If that person can be portrayed as the source of the conflict, the system itself remains untouched. In that moment, the honest voice becomes the scapegoat, not because it caused the dysfunction, but because it revealed it. Chosen one, this is why you may have heard labels that felt confusing or unfair. When you spoke honestly, some people described you as difficult. When you questioned harmful patterns, you were called dramatic. When you refused to remain silent about behavior that affected others, you were described as divisive or rebellious. These words were not accurate reflections of your character. They were defensive reactions from people who felt threatened by the possibility that truth might require change. In many environments, scapegoating follows a predictable pattern. At first, the person speaking honestly is ignored or dismissed. Their concerns are treated as exaggerated or unnecessary. If the issue continues surfacing, the tone begins to shift. People suggest that the person raising the concern is too sensitive or overly critical. Eventually, the narrative evolves further. Instead of asking whether the problem exists, the conversation becomes focused on whether the person exposing it is the problem. Once that shift occurs, the system protects itself by isolating the truth teller rather than addressing the truth itself. Chosen one, you may have felt the weight of this pattern deeply. Being blamed for tension you did not create can leave lasting emotional confusion. It is natural to question whether you spoke too strongly or misread the situation. When multiple people repeat the same accusation, doubt can quietly grow inside your mind. You might begin wondering whether the easiest path would have been silence. After all, if speaking honestly leads to isolation, the temptation to withdraw becomes understandable. Yet the truth revealed through your journey is that silence would not have healed the system you were part of. It would only have prolonged the illusion. The tension you experienced was not created by your honesty. It existed long before you recognized it. Your willingness to acknowledge what others ignored simply brought that tension into the open. Systems built on denial cannot tolerate that exposure for long, because it threatens the stability they have constructed around unspoken agreements. Chosen one, it is important that you stop internalizing the role others attempted to assign to you. Being cast as the scapegoat does not mean you were the source of the problem. In many cases, it means you were the first person willing to acknowledge it openly. Your courage disrupted patterns that had gone unquestioned for years. That disruption may have created discomfort, but discomfort is often the first step toward genuine transformation. Scripture reflects this dynamic in several places, reminding us that truth often encounters resistance before it is accepted. In the Gospel accounts, many prophets and teachers who spoke honestly about injustice were initially rejected by the communities they tried to help. Their message exposed contradictions people preferred to ignore. Rather than immediately embracing that truth, some chose to protect the familiar system instead. This pattern does not mean the message was wrong. It means the environment was not ready to receive it. Chosen one. Understanding this helps release the unnecessary guilt you may have carried. You were never responsible for maintaining a system built on silence. Your responsibility was simply to live with integrity and speak with honesty when circumstances required it. The reactions that followed belonged to the system itself, not to you. When structures built on denial encounter someone who refuses to bow to them, tension becomes inevitable. Over time, something else begins to happen as well. The same honesty that initially triggered resistance gradually exposes deeper truths. Even those who resisted your voice may quietly recognize that the issues you raised were real. They may not always admit it openly, but the awareness lingers. Truth has a way of continuing its work long after the moment of confrontation passes. Chosen one, the story of your life is not about being the source of conflict. It is about refusing to participate in the illusion that allowed dysfunction to survive unchecked. While others protected appearances, you chose authenticity. While systems demanded silence, you maintained integrity. The discomfort that followed was not proof that you were wrong. It was evidence that the truth had entered spaces where it had long been avoided. Your task now is not to carry the burden of that reaction forever. You do not need to prove your innocence to every person who misunderstood your intentions. Instead, you can release the role that was never truly yours. You were not the cause of the chaos. You were the one who saw it clearly and refused to pretend it was normal. Chosen one, the courage to remain honest in environments built on denial is rare. It often attracts criticism before it attracts respect. Yet over time, it becomes clear that systems built on illusion eventually collapse under their own contradictions. When that moment arrives, the voice that once seemed disruptive becomes recognized as necessary. You were never the problem that needed to be removed. You were the mirror that revealed what others were not ready to face. And the strength that allowed you to stand in that truth will continue guiding you forward, long after the systems that resisted it have faded away. Chosen one, as your journey continues unfolding, a deeper realization begins settling within your spirit. Your life was never designed to earn the approval of everyone around you. For many years, you may have carried the quiet hope that if you explained yourself clearly enough, remained patient long enough, and showed kindness consistently, people would eventually understand your intentions. You believed that sincerity would naturally create harmony. Yet life has gradually revealed a different truth. Your calling is not built around universal acceptance. It is built around authenticity, and authenticity does not resonate with every heart. At first, this realization can feel unsettling because human nature often seeks belonging through agreement. People want to feel understood by the communities around them. They hope that the values guiding their lives will be shared by those they encounter daily. When that expectation meets resistance, it can create a sense of isolation that feels deeply personal. Yet the path you were walking was never meant to be measured by how widely it is applauded. It is measured by how faithfully it reflects the truth placed within you. Chosen one, the purpose of your life is not to satisfy every observer, but to become a refuge for those who are ready for something deeper. Throughout your experiences, you have carried a presence that invites honesty, reflection, and growth. Some individuals respond to that invitation with resistance because it disrupts the comfort of their current patterns. Others, however, recognize something different when they encounter it. They feel a quiet stirring within themselves, an awareness that the authenticity they see in you reflects a possibility within their own lives. Not everyone will welcome the mirror your presence provides. Many people will turn away from it because looking honestly at oneself requires courage. It demands humility and the willingness to question habits that have shaped their identity for years. For those who are not ready for that process, the mirror becomes uncomfortable. They prefer environments where their existing patterns remain unchallenged. Your authenticity may appear threatening in those spaces because it introduces the possibility that change is necessary. Yet, chosen one, there will always be individuals who respond differently. These are the people whose hearts have already begun searching for something more meaningful than performance or convenience. When they encounter your presence, they do not feel attacked or exposed. Instead, they feel recognized. The same honesty that unsettles others gives them permission to acknowledge truths they have quietly sensed within themselves. They see in your life an example of what becomes possible when someone chooses growth rather than avoidance. These individuals may be fewer in number, but their significance cannot be measured by quantity alone. They are the ones who will look into the mirror rather than turning away from it. Instead of defending old patterns, they will ask questions that lead toward healing. Instead of resisting the light they encounter, they will allow it to illuminate areas of their lives that need transformation. Your presence becomes meaningful to them, not because it makes life easier, but because it helps them see themselves clearly. Chosen one, these aligned individuals will not merely tolerate the authenticity you carry. They will recognize its value and respond to it with respect. Conversations with them will feel different from the interactions you have experienced in environments shaped by performance. There will be less need for explanation and more room for sincerity. Instead of competing with your growth or questioning your intentions, they will appreciate the clarity you bring. Your presence will encourage them to pursue the same honesty in their own lives. In these relationships, something powerful begins to happen. The authenticity you carry does not only reveal truth, it also creates space for healing. When someone encounters a person who lives with integrity and compassion simultaneously, it often awakens a desire for the same alignment within themselves. Your willingness to remain genuine despite misunderstanding becomes a quiet form of guidance. Without demanding change, your life demonstrates that transformation is possible. Chosen one, this is the true purpose of the mirror your presence represents. It is not meant to shame or condemn those who encounter it. It exists to invite awakening. Those who are ready will see their reflection and choose growth. They will recognize areas where fear or compromise once shaped their decisions, and they will begin moving toward a more honest path. In that process, your life becomes more than an example. It becomes a catalyst for their own transformation. Understanding this purpose changes how you view the resistance you sometimes encounter. Instead of interpreting rejection as failure, you begin seeing it as a natural part of the calling you carry. Not everyone is prepared for the reflection authenticity provides. Some will step away because it challenges their comfort. Others will move closer because it resonates with the truth they have been searching for. Neither reaction changes the responsibility you have been given. Chosen one, your assignment was never to shrink in order to maintain approval from the majority. The temptation to reduce your voice or soften your authenticity may appear when resistance grows strong. You may feel the urge to simplify your message so it becomes easier for everyone to accept. Yet doing so would dilute the very quality that allows others to awaken. The few who are ready need to encounter truth in its full clarity, not in a form softened by fear of misunderstanding. The path ahead therefore requires acceptance of a simple reality. Authenticity will always divide responses. Some will resist it, while others will be drawn toward it. Your role is not to control those reactions, but to remain faithful to the truth God placed within you. When you do, the people meant to encounter that truth will recognize it. They will see in your life a reflection of the courage they are learning to develop within themselves. Chosen one, The calling unfolding in your life is not measured by how many people approve of it. It is measured by the transformation it inspires in those who are ready to receive it. Your authenticity becomes a refuge where honesty can grow without fear, and where healing can begin for those willing to face themselves. The mirror you carry may not be welcomed by everyone, but for the few who are prepared to look into it, it becomes the beginning of their own awakening. And so you continue forward without shrinking, not because you seek attention or influence, but because remaining true allows others to find the clarity they have been searching for. Your life stands as a quiet invitation, an example that truth, courage, and compassion can exist together. Those who are ready will see it, and when they do, they will rise alongside you into the transformation they once believed was impossible.